All right, guys, this is going to be kind of a quick InfiniTeam rundown thought process thing. I think InfiniTeam is probably the strongest cap board right now in all of the mid set PBE. I think the biggest thing about InfiniTeam is that, just generally speaking, you kind of just steamroll everyone late if you hit your spikes. You get 2 extra full units at 5 and 7. At 7, your unit's basically a woodland charm with 3 full items on it. At 5, it's 2 with half HP, half damage, with 3 full items at endgame. Basically, the way it works is at 1 AUG, your Infiniteams get 1 item. At 2 AUGs, your Infiniteam gets 2 items, 3 items. So they're really, really strong. I'd expect some changes with these guys as we go forward. Right now, the portals can only open on the first and back row. And I do believe it shows you both of them when you first put in InfiniTeam. So you'll be able to note if both are frontline, one's backline, one's frontline, etc. I don't know the distribution, if it's 50-50, if it's kind of like random or what have you. Basically, though, your early game tank is going to be Pantheon. Pantheon's a really, really strong tank in the early game with Heart. Lucian's a really good early game damage dealer. Sivir, being a sure shot, is also pretty good. There's a couple Sivir augments and Lucian augments that allow for some either econ or fast leveling, which are both really beneficial to try to get TF Ezreal early. Shen is a really, really good defender tank, which combos pretty well with mech if you want to go Garen, because defender value and so on and so forth. Then your capped out carries are going to be Twisted Fate and Ezreal. Twisted Fate, in my opinion, kind of feels a little bit suspect to run as a carry for an InfiniTeam comp. I think you're generally better playing Lucian, Sivir, or Ultimate Ez versus Twisted Fate, though Twisted Fate is possible, especially with the right augments. I think Ezreal, though, is kind of your premier carry. And the one that makes me say that InfiniTeam is like the hardest cap in the game. Now, InfiniTeam did take over the spat for BF, so you can get to 7 a lot easier to kind of hit that power spike. Though I think it's very much similar to Sure Shot in set 8, that you need to be again ahead in a good position to have economy and try to play for that level 8, level 9 if you want to cap out with Ezreal. In PBE, it's worked out that people oftentimes, if they're ahead, be able to get to Ezreal 2 a lot easier. But I think it's going to kind of depend on how aggressive people play in live and your generalized area of LP, etc. Now, I would argue that Lucian does best with like blue buff and then some variation of like Shiv, Rageblade, something of the sort, as if you're going to run Lucian carry, you want his abilities to go off as soon as possible. Sivir, you kind of just go with your normal sure shot items. I feel like Sivir generally feels pretty good with Last Whisper, IE, any type of that kind of thing, Hextech Gunblade, so on and so forth. And generally, if you're going to play InfiniTeam, you probably itemize your Sivir early or itemize another sure shot, such as Samira or something of the sort. And then you go late game and transfer your items to Ezreal. I think Ezreal is like the strongest option right now for AD. Ezreal kind of doesn't care about items so much as you just having an Ezreal 2. It's very, I think, similar to Aphelios in the sense that like the 2-star is really what power spikes you really hard. But Ezreal more cares about having InfiniTeam 5 or 7 to double. As Ezreal's ability gives you like, I think it's a handful of Ezreal shots, 5 at level 1 and 2, star 1 and 2. Right. So if you get 2 Ezreals with the InfiniTeam and then they both shoot 5, and at 55% or 90% of the damage of your Ezreal with 3 items, right, you're going to end up with a situation where you can kind of kill anybody who's clumped pretty quickly. So if someone's got a backline carry like Nico, and they've got a Janna sitting there next to them, you can kind of just mow through both of them really quick. I think Edge of Night, if you're facing an Ezreal, is really, really important to kind of keep you alive in those like initial bursts. Ezreal, if they don't kill you in the initial burst, tends to struggle, as just base damage isn't very high in terms of like the initial hits. But if that burst wipes the majority of your team, it's kind of over. There's not really a whole lot to it at that point. Um, it just kind of feels bad overall. Now, generally, what I see though, or like what I've been kind of trying to do, is like, let's say I get a situation in which I'm trying to go Ezreal and I'm going fast. I'll generally play 3 or 5 as quick as I possibly can to get that extra unit on the board. Generally, like get an extra Shen out, get an extra thing out to get an extra unit. With the portal, gives you that early game power spike. If you're able to get a emblem, I almost always say go for 7. If you're not able to get an emblem, I'd say stay at 5 or even drop to 3 if need be. Make sure you prioritize that front line with Ezreal. Ezreal really needs to get that first cast off, and if that first cast doesn't kill everything, you really need the second cast then to kill everything. And then in turn, frontline can kind of be a little bit problematic. I think it's the same with any like sure shot comp. You really need that help in the front of the board. So kind of keep that in mind. Going 7 though, or just kind of generally speaking, if I wanted to go something to kind of support, I'd generally go Garen, as Garen gives you the defender bonus. And then on top of that, you can kind of get away with whatever after that to kind of support you. You don't necessarily have to run mech, but the mech does help if you're running a little empty in terms of overall frontline value, which can happen, right? So oftentimes I'd be willing to do something like Garen plus Jax Wukong, you know, in a situation like this at 9, and then you have like an InfiniTeam somewhere as an emblem, maybe on Jax or Garen. Doesn't really matter, right? To get the 7, and then you're kind of in clear waters, right? I think this is a pretty good capped board. You could arguably take out like these two here, Twisted Fate Pantheon, or Twisted Fate Lucian, or Pantheon Lucian, etc., to kind of give yourself a little bit more breathing room up front if you wanted to go to 5. Though I'd argue again, Ezreal being duplicated is kind of like the power spike and the value in it, right? Getting a 2-star 5 cost doubled for free with Woodland Charm, basically with InfiniTeam, is stupid good value. So I think realistically, you can get away with a lot of things with InfiniTeam. I think it's the hardest capped board currently available, and I'd expect some nerfs going into live from PBE. But definitely check this out if you want to high roll. I think if you're high rolling, this is like a disgusting comp. I think it's a comp that will work really well for a lot of people if you're in that like fast-paced setup, right? I think it's very similar to Sure Shots and capping out with the Felios. You really have to have that lead. You can luck your way into it and get like a top 4, but you need that economy lead. You need that itemization lead. You need something. Underground into InfiniTeam cap is not too uncommon. That'd be kind of my thing. If you have any other questions, feel free to drop them below. I'll always jump in my Discord, shoot them on Twitch, Twitter, whatever it may be, or my new TikTok that I've been getting some stuff with Quinn worked out. So other than that, catch you guys next time. Peace.